There we go, now you can hear me. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Friday Cookin' Cook Along Live with me, Robert. Tonight we're doing steak, twice baked potato, and we're also going to put a garden salad so that we have somewhat of a healthy meal going on. So, hopefully y'all are ready to join me, because I'm trying to get you guys to cook with me, not just to cook for you, although you're welcome to stop by anytime you'd like, after the shelter in place. Anyway, tonight the first thing we're going to do is get started with our potato. This is going to take the longest to cook tonight, and we're going to get this in the oven immediately. I've already got my oven preheated to 375, so if you haven't done that yet, get your oven going. 375. What we're going to do is take a little fork, we're going to poke a couple of holes into the potato. I don't know, maybe 8 sets of holes on each side of the potato. 8. This allows steam to come out from the inside so that the potato doesn't explode. And we're just gonna, let's see, cover this with a little bit of olive oil. Regular olive oil, don't use extra virgin, and the reason we don't use extra virgin is because it will actually burn in the oven. We're just gonna put a little bit of olive oil. And then we're just gonna rub this all over the outside. Of course, I've washed my hands, they're clean. And we're just going to toss this straight in the oven. What this is going to do is it's going to help the skin get nice and crispy. Right on the rack, right in the middle of the oven. Anna, you're more than welcome to come and get takeout. Mop up after that. Now the steak is actually the quickest thing that's going to cook, so it's actually going to be the last thing that I do tonight. We're going to get started on the salad right now. We've got about 45 minutes on that potato, so I'm just going to take my time. Get this guy out of the way. And sorry for some of the extras. We had a work-related happy hour. We were supposed to do a holiday theme, so I grabbed something that was St. Patrick's Day related. This is a St. Patrick's Day Beanie Baby from back in the day. So I'll get him out of the way, and we'll get started with our garden salad. So I like to use romaine. You can use Bib, you can use any kind of lettuce you want. It's really, you know, up to whatever you're looking for in your salad. Do a carrot, we got a tomato, we got some cucumber, avocado, and we got some radishes from my garden. So I'm super excited about these. They are delicious, and it's the first thing to come out of my garden this season. I actually just planted my tomatoes not too long ago, like within the past couple of hours. So I'm very excited that this season and I have some tomatoes. The garden salad. Let's start with, I'm not going to start with the lettuce. I like to put the lettuce on at the very end. So I'm actually going to set this aside for the moment. And I'm going to put everything else in. And the reason I don't like putting the lettuce in first is if you start putting veggies on top of the lettuce, you're actually going to kind of crush it. It's a very delicate kind of vegetable. And what will end up happening is the weight from all of this stuff will actually start compressing it down, and you'll get kind of a mushy salad. So I like to start with kind of the more hearty things, carrots, tomato, onion, cucumber, and then put like radishes and the avocado on top. And I'm going to chop this all with a mandolin. And this is the fancy mandolin that I've had forever. Works really well, gets things nice and thin. I'll actually start with the radishes. A lot of these come with guards. You can definitely use the guard if you're not confident with the mandolin. I would not blame you. But I've used this guy a lot, and I stop well before I get anywhere near the blade, so if I cut myself today, it will be the first time ever. Now the cool thing with this, with the carrots and whatever you're going to be putting into this bowl here, is you can kind of cut them whatever way you want. If you want them just to be rounds, you can just cut them like this. You know, just shoop, 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 and you get nice round carrots. And that's perfect. And of course, as the chef, you have to taste everything. Now, if you want more of a diagonal shape, just to kind of give it a little bit more visual flair, go ahead and take your carrot and pre-cut it to whatever angle you want it to. So now I'm going to get slices that look like that. Don't try and take this carrot with a flat cut and try and angle it as you go. That's a recipe for disaster. This way, And this is even kind of keeping my fingers away from the blade because now my fingers are actually in front of the blade. So as I do this, I'm going to get these oblong shaped of carrots versus the rounds that I was getting just a second ago. And you'll notice that since I've cut it and didn't quite angle it off at the end, it's actually catching, and I'm getting kind of a little bit of a hump. I think I also made that a little bit too thick. There we go. Get these guys in the bowl, and we'll just get this cut flat. And just keep the carrot flat up against the mandolin. If you have a guard, definitely use a guard. If you're not confident, I've just been doing this for so long that I'm okay doing it this way. And there we go. Carrot's done. Alternately, if you don't want to use a mandolin, you can definitely use any kind of a knife you want, and you're just going to go through and cut very, very thin slices. Or as long as all of the slices are uniform, the salad will come together and be pretty cool. Let's go to the radishes next. Very similar to a carrot, they're root vegetables, so they're nice and hearty. Sorry, I'm eating all the carrots. I love carrots. These guys here, you don't really have to cut them up, as long as you have a flat end somewhere. So I'm going to take a paring knife here and just kind of cut off maybe 1/8 of an inch, just so that I get a flat. Similar to the carrot, if you want to have oblong shapes, you can cut them kind of diagonally, and that's the shape that the mandolin will cut. Now I'm going to make this a thinner slice for these guys. And we're actually going to try and slice them by holding my fingers flat, like this. Very similar to using the guard, because it's keeping your hand up away from the blade. Carrots from your own garden are so much nicer than ones you get from the store. And there we go, nice little rounds. I like separating them when I'm putting them into the bowl, because otherwise they kind of stick together, as I'm sure you know. And they're harder to unstick later. So I just kind of try and keep everything separated now. Radish down. My vacuum cleaner, my dog, is having some treats. Same thing with this radish, just keep my hands up and just chop it down. And again, you can just, if you want to take your time, you can do something like this where you go 1, 2, and see how close your fingers are getting. And when you start feeling uncomfortable with how close they're getting, you're done. And for some reason, it looks like my chat box here is not showing. So let me do that. Now you guys should be able to see the chat. Awesome. Now you guys can participate as well. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. We'll get this last radish cut. Right there. Awesome. I'm just moving the mandolin out of the way because it just makes it easier for me to grab everything off the cutting board. Oh, doggy's getting a lot of carrots. And I think he got that radish I dropped. Well, I guess I know he likes radishes, or I'll find it under my bed later. That'll be fine. Cucumbers next. Similar to these guys, we're just going to do the exact same thing. Keep our hand flat. I like to cut my cucumbers just a little bit thicker because otherwise it kind of tends to like explode off the back end. So we'll just do something like this. Let's see what these guys look like. Yep, those look like good slices, so I'll just keep it at where it's at. This is a really quick way to go through and chop vegetables and get them all very, very uniform. Cucumbers tend to stick the most, so I really kind of take care to... They've got so much moisture in them, that's what makes them kind of stick together. Thanks, Mom. So we can get all of this stuff here in the bowl. Got a nice little bed of hearty veggies down there. Let's do a little bit of onion. Now, onion I like to cut a little bit thinner You can't go too thin again. This is more of a hearty vegetable, but even if you get this guy too thin, it's just going to kind of get gluey. It's really weird. And same thing, just keep it up and cut through. See, kind of blows out the back if you go a little too thin. I'm actually just going to peel that off right there. Take those guys, throw them in, leave you on the side. I'm going to do, I don't know, maybe three runs of onion. 1, 2, 3. See if that's enough. How's everybody else's Friday going? You guys having a good one? I had a pretty good one. I built a planter box yesterday. Today I got it situated in the ground and planted 8 tomato plants. 6 of them were already seed starts, and they were, you know, pretty good sized seed starts. And I planted them about halfway down, so I removed all of the stems that were below the halfway point and then just planted them down. And the entire tomato stem is actually a root system, and it wants to root out. So as long as you get the main stem in the ground, you're just going to have better roots. It's going to give the plant better stability, and it'll be able to get more nutrients. So pro tip, if you've never done that before, plant your tomatoes way down. You want to keep at least 1 or 2 or 3, you know, true stems out of the dirt, and then everything below that, you just want it to be the main stem underground, and it'll root out. That's what all the little fibers that you see kind of coming out of that main stem are. Thanks, May. I have not had Haley's cooking yet, but can't wait to try it. I'm going to do 1 more onion just because I like onion. Nobody else likes it when I have onion, but that's their problem, not mine. We'll get the onion in the bowl. Very good. Let's do the tomato next because the avocado is definitely a little bit mushier. I just take the stem off, I just twist it off, and we're good. I've already washed this, so I don't have to wash it now. I've washed everything. Everything started at the sink, washed, dried, and then set over here so that I can get it prepped. I'm actually going to use my paring knife on this just because it's a little bit more precise. I can kind of come through here and dice this guy up real quick. And then I like to take my tomato quarters, hold them kind of up like this, and just chop straight down, and that gets rid of the stem bit. And then that guy's done. We went over this in my taco night video, which you can find on YouTube or on Facebook if you go and look back, or on Twitch. I like to focus on doing one thing at a time. So if I have more than 1 tomato, I'm just going to quarter them all, then I'm going to destem them all, then I'm going to chop them down into whatever I need them to chop down in. That way I'm not task switching all the time. I'm not doing 1 tomato and then going back to the beginning and quartering it and then doing another tomato and then going back to the beginning. I like taking my time and just saying, hey, cool. All I'm doing is stemming. Done. Okay, cool. All I'm doing now is cutting them down into whatever size I need for whatever I'm putting them in. Awesome. I do that with all my vegetables. It just makes things a lot easier. So what I'm going to do with these, I've already quartered them, but I actually want slightly smaller pieces for my salad. So I'm actually going to take these guys and cut them in half this way. So now I'm getting smaller. I guess this is going to be 1/8ing them. And then at this point, I'm going to put my paring knife aside because I want the longer knife. And I'm just going to cut these into like 4 sections. So 3 cuts for 4 sections. I'm just going to go maybe 1 there, maybe 1 right down the middle, and maybe 1 over this way. And you'll notice for a salad, for the tomato or for the taco night, we actually took out all of this inner seed stuff because it doesn't really add much to salsa. It just makes it really wet. For the salad, I'm actually just going to keep all of that because it does add texture and flavor to the salad. Do that. I'll get this stuff over here. We're just doing this for all the tomatoes. Everyone have a good week. How was your like 3rd or 4th or 5th week in social distancing slash voluntary quarantine been going? I've actually been having a blast. I do a lot of real estate. That's my job. And it's been a really slow market as far as the market goes. But it's been a great chance for me to kind of focus on other things like putting together videos like this, doing a bunch of other stuff, getting some of the administrative things that you kind of start to not really pay attention to and focus on, getting a lot of that done and out of the way, which is great. Catching up on a lot of the admin stuff. Awesome, New York Slice. How you doing, man? Good to see you. What are you in sales? What sales do you do? Real estate as well, or do you do something else? Yeah, Tori. How is it? You're with Dollar, right? Or yeah, Dollar. How are things going there? I'm done with my mandolin, so I'm just gonna toss it in the sink. And I'm gonna put my onion in the fridge. Just set it right there. No equity for real estate? Yeah, it is definitely something difficult to get into. Ooh, nice. You're a cook as well. Cool. Well, let me know how I'm doing. If I make any mistakes, by all means, call me out. I'm totally an amateur cook. I've learned everything I know through YouTube and Gordon Ramsay and stuff like that. So, by all means, Enterprise. I'm sorry. Terrible, terrible. Cool. Very cool. Good to hear that things are still going good. New York Slice, do you by chance work at a pizza place? Just extrapolating from the name, or is that just kind of a fun play on words since you possibly live in New York and cook out there? Hey Frank, what's up, man? So as I was mentioning earlier, we just had a happy hour for my company. We all get online at about 5 o'clock. Everybody brings a drink, and we just kind of have fun and see how everyone's doing, keep each other kind of in good spirits, and just hang out. Kind of similar to what I'm doing here with y'all. Nobody cooks during that, but a couple people are interested in getting into that. So hopefully they pick that up because I think this is a lot of fun. Yeah, Felicia. Cool. Very cool. Yeah, yeah. Pizza. Awesome. Yeah, May. May actually lives right down here. Her and her daughter Haley. I've never met May, but Haley's a pretty good friend of mine, so loving that. I'm going to go ahead and start doing the lettuce. And all I do with this, I take these outer leaves and I actually just throw them away. I know that that's food waste. Oh my God, you can also compost them if you want. I don't have compost yet. That is something that's on my calendar to do this year, is to get a compost bin going. You can also use them in veggie stock. They don't add too much flavor, and the lettuce is fairly cheap, so I usually just toss it. And then I have rinsed this under cold water, but I always check and make sure that there aren't any little bugs kind of hiding out in the head of lettuce. And what we're going to do is pop all these pieces off. One of the reasons that I do rinse lettuce all the time is it actually removes some of that bitter flavor that you get. Sometimes you cut up a head of lettuce and the leaves are super, super bitter. Keep track of it, because a lot of times I notice that if I didn't wash it beforehand, like let's say I'm just making tabbouleh for myself and I'm just like, head of lettuce, whatever, and I start eating it, the leaves are more bitter than if I actually wash them. So I'll get three, you get the 3 heads of romaine in the same bag. If I wash 2 of them and eat the third one, the first 2 will always be fine and the third one will always be the bitter one. And that's good. And I'm actually going to save the butt because you can actually trim this up and eat it. It's super sweet and super delicious. So I'm going to set that over there. Felicia? I know, Michael, I'm sorry. Felicia, I wish I had a rabbit. I have a dog and a cat, and I think the cat would go after the rabbit, so. Now, as far as the lettuce, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and kind of stack it on top of each other like this, as best I can. And you might have to use 2 piles, but I'll try and put all the smaller leaves on the inside, the bigger leaves more on the outside, and this just takes a second. We're still waiting on that potato, so it's not a big deal if we have to wait for a bit. I'm just going to take these and just kind of rip them and toss them on top. That's really all I'm going to do. Now, I'm not crushing the lettuce when I'm doing this, if that makes sense. I'm holding it with my fingers and just kind of twisting, and the lettuce will actually kind of tear itself into little pieces. And then when you get down to the smaller pieces, you could just break them in half like this. You could use a knife, but it's more fun to get your hands dirty. There we go. And then we're just going to do this. And you'll notice that I put an entire head of lettuce in here. This is basically a meal for 2 people. So this will be a great amount of salad for 2 people. Get that all squared away. Also, somebody was mentioning that if you take, I don't remember what vegetable it is. I think it was beets. If you take beets and you twist off the ends, they don't bleed. And I think lettuce is the same way. If you just cut through it, you get that white milky excretion. But if you rip it in half, the lettuce really doesn't bleed all that much. So kind of cool. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. Salad is done. I can actually take this and cover it and put it back in the fridge and leave it there until I'm done with the rest. Everything else is going to go pretty quick, so I'm not going to bother doing that. I'm just going to set it over there for now. And we're going to get started with our steak. So, if you are on Facebook, follow me on Facebook or on Twitch, I told you that the best way to prepare a steak is to prepare it the night before. Get it kind of all squared away out on a tray like this that's got a cooling rack on it so that it gets airflow all around. Season it on all sides, and then just toss it in your fridge overnight, uncovered. What ends up happening is the salt draws out the moisture from the steak, seasons the moisture, and then as it evaporates, it actually seeps into the meat. Like osmosis, basically, is what happens. So the meat's all seasoned. It's salted. It's good. Bacteria from the steak is not going to like fly around in your fridge. So as long as you're not stacking stuff on top of your steak, you should be good. I am not a doctor. I am not a medical professional, so I can't say that that's 100% true. I've never gotten sick from putting steak, as long as it's on a tray or something, back in the fridge. The cold air from the fridge also dries out the steak. Now, the reason getting the steak super dry is important, usually, like let's say we went and bought this steak today. We brought it home and we pull it out of the package. It's usually a little bit wet. And you can dry it off with a paper towel or whatever, but it usually gets a little bit more wet again as it sits. When you put anything with water on it into a pan, that water has to evaporate before it can even start searing. So what you're actually doing is creating a cushion of air and steam between the steak and the pan. So you're not going to get those nice golden brown crusts on the outside. Works the same way as if you're using it out on a grill. Putting it out on a grill, that's when you get kind of like the grayish exterior, and you might get a little bit of browning here and there, but you're not going to get that nice even browning all the way around the entire steak. By putting it in the fridge and letting it dry out, you have no moisture on the outside of the steak. And when you put it in the pan, it's going to be real nice. And we've left it out for about an hour to kind of come up to room temperature. That just makes it so that you're not trying to combat the fact that it's now like 40 degrees from the fridge. Everything here should be somewhere around 68, 69 degrees with the steak. And when you sear it in the pan, you're killing all the bacteria on the outside anyway. So it should be good. Again, I've never had a problem with it. Let's see. Definitely Lagunitas. I don't know if you know this. I used to work there as a software engineer about 3 years ago. And I live about, I guess, 45 miles away to the southeast. And the drive was terrible. It would take me 2 hours to get to work, 2.5 to 3 hours to get home, just because of traffic. The roads from where I'm at to get up there, it's a very terrible road. It's not very optimized for drives, and there are a lot of people commuting that way and back. So unfortunately, I had to leave that position because it was driving me nuts. I was going crazy. Jaron, this is still going to be a very juicy steak. The inside of the steak still has all the moisture. You're only drying out the outside. If you go to any steakhouse and they've dry aged their meat, it's the exact same process. It's just in a more controlled environment, and those steaks are always super juicy. So you don't have to worry about the steak losing any juice or losing any of its moistness through this process. This just makes sure that the outside is perfect. Oh yeah, I'm totally going full nerd this time, Nicole. Thank you. I just got it at Safeway. It was in the rack. I've been very careful about wearing a mask when I go out, and gloves and all of that, and looking like a total geek, yet my safety is my priority. What am I making? Yep, it's a New York strip. New York strip, we're doing twice baked potato, which is in the oven right now cooking. It was the first thing that we did. And garden salad. I think you were here for part of the garden salad. Awesome, Felicia. Yeah, my cat, it took her actually like 5 years to get used to my dog, to where now she'll hang around in the same area with him. And she still hisses at him from time to time, and she's definitely the boss. Hop Stupid is an amazing beer. This is, yeah, the traffic is terrible. This is Waldo's Special Ale. It comes out around 420 every year. I don't know if you know the story behind the Waldos, but they're the people who supposedly came up with the term 420. And hey, you know what? We forgot to put our avocado in the salad. Let's do that. But they came up with the term 420, and Lagunitas has kind of a weed culture built up around their beer. So part of the 420 mythos comes from them coming and brewing their own beer at Lagunitas, which is something that we all loved it over there. A lot of fun. Fun fact, I never bought into the 420 anything. So I'm a Boy Scout, sorry to say. don't have any problem with it, but let's see. So all I did to cut the avocado, we went over this in the taco night stream. You just cut through until you hit the stone. It's always in the center. Cut gently, just in case, but it's always in the center until you hit the stone, and then you just roll the avocado around and leave the knife stationary, and you'll cut all the way around the avocado. And then you can just split it by rotating it a little bit, and then you can pop off the halves, and you've got a halved avocado. And then to get the seed out, or the stone, if you want to call it the stone or the seed, set it flat on your cutting board, take your knife straight down, you can pick it up, you just twist, and then seed comes right out. Now to get the seed off the knife, all you're going to do is pinch it. Take 2 fingers, one on each side, like that, and you just push forward. At no point are your fingers in front of the blade, so it's a very safe way to deal with an avocado. Now, as far as getting the avocado into the salad, we're going to cut it the very same way that we did it for the taco stream. So I'm going to go get a butter knife real quick, which is right over here. The reason I use a butter knife is because you can't cut yourself with a butter knife. Take the butter knife, and we're going to go right down the middle. And then you have to decide how wide you want your avocado slices. So I want mine about a 1/4 inch, so that's what I'm going to do, is cut little 1/4 inch grooves into the avocado all the way to the skin. The skin will stop the butter knife, but if you were using one of your sharper knives, the paring knife or the chef's knife or Santoku or whatever you're using, it has the chance to go through the skin, and if it's a super sharp knife, you'll actually cut through your fingers. Don't do that. Not fun. But I'm basically going to cut through 1/4 inch on each side, like this. And then I'm going to turn it 90 degrees and cut about a 1/2 inch this side. And I'm going to take a spoon. Why a spoon, cousin? Because it's dull, you idiot. It'll hurt more. And then I just scoop out the avocado into the salad. And what that does, if I pull up a piece, is it actually has all of these individual segments. And when you mix the salad, they're all just going to fall apart, and you're going to have nice little bits of avocado all throughout your salad. Toss the skin. Michael, we don't really do, I just don't know how to do compost. Getting back to your question, I'm sorry I forgot about it. I know you just toss stuff in a pile. I don't have a dedicated space for that. And honestly, I didn't even know about it until a couple years ago, just because it's not something that I grew up with. So don't really know much about it, but I do really want to get into that because I do a lot of gardening. I do a lot of gardening, and I think that would be beneficial to just make it more self-sufficient, more sustainable for myself. Same thing with the second half of avocado. We've got all those little segments kind of cut out, and if I scoop it upwards, you're going to see that they're all kind of coming apart as I scoop them out. And then as soon as I mix them through the salad, they will just break apart into little nuggets of goodness. Very cool. Spoon, I think I'm done with that. I'm just going to set these over here for now, just in case I need them. If you're cooking for somebody else, don't lick your fingers. I'm cooking for me, so I don't care if I get myself sick. Hey Frank, where are you from? Yeah, we definitely got really good beer over here. Firestone is also good, yeah. Yeah, 101 is terrible. Herbal refreshments, no. I've never done an herbal refreshment. I like that term, though. That's a great term. I just drink beer and wine, drink wine and other alcohol. Well, we kind of started sheltering at home, at least from our company, Mom, 3 weeks. We started about 4.5 weeks ago, just kind of saying, stay home if you don't have to come into work. So me being me, I didn't come into work because there was no reason for me to come into work. I can do everything I do remotely, so it was great. You can also just fling the seed into the garbage. I mean, if you want to do that, like, you know, flicky thing and get the seed flying off the end of the knife, that is definitely an option. The problem is, if you do that and you're not aiming right, you could hit a cat, you could hit your significant other, could hit a camera or a window. Not ideal. Nice, man. So I came out to Munich, actually. We went to Austria, and we did an Ironman, a half Ironman over in Austria at Zell am See a couple years ago. And we went to Weinstefaner. I went to Erdinger, a lot of really cool beer brewing places over there, too. Not as big of a selection as we have here, because I know you guys have the Reinheitsgebot, the beer law, purity law. The beer was still phenomenal, and loved it. Sometimes you kind of get a little bit overwhelmed by the flavors, and it's nice to kind of go and just, you know, zero out, recalibrate is what I was trying to say there, and kind of get back into the groove of what beer should be. Cool, so we're done with the salad. Steak is ready to go. We talked about why the outside is dry, why we want it dry, and what we're going to want to do is get our pan going. So we're basically going to get this up as high as we can. I have an induction cooktop here. I set it to max sear and just kind of, well, actually, you know what? I don't. I set it to medium high just for now, and I let it kind of warm up. And we're going to take one of these little pats of butter, and the reason that I've got the butter out right now is because I want the butter to be softening for the mashed potato later, the twice-baked potato. But I'm going to take a little cube of butter for the steak, and I'm going to cut another cube of butter for when we're done with the steak, and the rest is going to go in the mashed potato. These guys here. Again, if you're cooking for somebody else, cooking for family, wash your hands. Don't eat everything off your hands. I'm a terrible person. I'm doing this for myself. I'm okay with eating my own self. Anyway, let's get the steak totally prepped. I'm going to dry off my workstation here real quick because it still has avocado and tomato bits on it. And I'm using paper towels very sparingly. I do have cloth towels on order. I had a bunch of cloth towels and I have no idea where they went. So who knows? We're going to take our steak. You're going to notice that it is dry on the entire outside. We've already salted this, so we don't have to add any salt right now. But what we're going to do is add fresh ground pepper. You don't want to pepper this the night before. Pepper loses its oil, which is what gives it its flavor, the longer it sits out in open air. And if you put it in the fridge, it's going to absolutely kill the flavor because you're going to dry out all of that. So what we're going to do here is we want a pretty coarse grind on the pepper grinder, and we're just going to grind on the outside. Again, we're not adding salt because we already have added salt. Been marinating in its own salt, kind of dry brining overnight. We'll get some good pepper on there. Now what I like to do with the fat layer is just kind of absorb anything that wasn't on the surface. So we get a nice bit of fat on the back and a nice bit of fat on both sides. And we're good. Set you over here. So the reason I didn't put this directly up to sear like right away is I like to kind of evenly heat the pan because I want it all to be as hot as possible. If you just set it to sear, you're going to feel over the pan. It's going to feel super hot, but it's only going to be the area where the fire or the induction in this case, or if you have an electric griddle, it's only going to be where the electric parts are touching, but you're going to feel the radiant heat. It's not what you want. You want the entire pan to be uniformly hot. So by putting it on a lower heat, you can make sure that the entire pan heats evenly. And then when you're ready to actually cook, you hit max sear, and then it takes less time for the rest of the pan to come up to temperature as well. I'm going to set this guy there. That's going to be my hand towel. So I've got this giant jug of olive oil, courtesy of my mom. And we're going to put a little bit of oil on here. About 2 tablespoons. You don't want to totally soak the pan with this, but you do want enough so that it's going to coat the entire bottom and still give you enough. If you tilt the pan, you should have like a tablespoon left in a reservoir there. And you'll notice the pan is smoking, and that's exactly what you want. We're going to kick it up to max sear. Ideally, if I were cooking this, I'd be over by my cooktop, which actually has a vent fan over it so that it's absorbing all of this smoke. Since I'm not going to be here for very long, I'm just going to do it over here. We got this on max sear, and we're getting this super, super hot. And the reason you want that is because you want a good crust on the outside of the steak. Hey, Aunt Debbie, how's it going, man? You can definitely do the fat side first if you'd like. I usually finish with the fat side. It's just a preference. There is a benefit for just using the fat side and getting all the fat rendered and using that to cook the steak in. I definitely agree. You can also use bacon fat or chicken fat or anything else that you have. That's looking great. What I'm going to do is actually toss my steak in right now. grab the steak and you're going to lay it away from you. Put the side that you want to present in first, because that's the side that you want to cook first. So this is the nice side. This is the side that was sitting on the grate, so you can see little grate indentations on it. And I don't want that to be presented to my guest, so I'm actually going to, my guest is me. So what I'm actually going to do is do this, and you're going to put one side down. You definitely want to hear a sizzle. So like that, and you're going to lay it away from you. And then at this point, make sure you push down on the steak to make sure that all of the steak is in contact with the pan. If you're putting this out on a grill, same thing. After you put it down on the grill, after you lay it out, make sure you put some weight on it to make sure that all of the steak is in contact with the various grill grate pieces. You can use a plate if you don't want to use your hand, or you can actually have, if you have a kitchen towel, wrap your hand with it and use that, because then you won't get any splatters up on your hand. I don't feel anything with this hand anymore because I do so much cooking, so I don't care. Just kidding. Now that we've got the steak in the pan, we're actually going to turn the pan back down to medium-high, maybe a little bit hotter than medium-high. We're just going to let that sit for a couple of minutes. And what you're going to do is look on the outside, and you can kind of see the brown layer as it cooks move up the steak. Once it gets about a quarter of the way up, we're going to flip it. Before we flip it, we're going to check and just make sure that everything is seared the way that we want it. Thank you. Some people bought me so I've got a Benihana hat on. Benihana is a restaurant out here, and they have a program that you can go through called Be the Chef, where they take you through a one-day, like a couple-hour course where they kind of teach you how to do everything at their little Benihana stations, and then you get to cook for 7 of your friends or family. And I think my mom got it for me for Christmas one year, and it was a lot of fun. Had my mom, dad, stepmom, stepdad, sister, her husband. It was a lot of fun. We got a lot of really good food that night, and I got to do everything. There is actually a video on my YouTube channel if you want to go watch it. It's kind of like a highlights reel of everything that people took videos of. A lot of fun. So now that the first side is almost done cooking, I'm actually going to toss this pat of butter in. And the reason that we didn't throw it in earlier is because the pan was a little bit too hot, and you're going to burn the butter. But we do want that roasty flavor of the butter. We just don't want it to be burned, because that's just not how you want to taste butter. All good. I'm going to move some of these things out of the way. I'm actually going to go and quickly rinse off my cutting board while this has a little bit more time cooking. I'll be right back. What do you guys got planned for the weekend? Anything fun? I know my stepmom and dad are over in Arizona. I think they're in Sedona at this point, so I'm sure they've got some fun hikes planned. It's supposed to rain here, so I don't really have much planned for this weekend. Turn up the heat on that a bit, but what do you guys got going on this weekend? Cool, so I got this going. We're gonna turn our steak and look at that sear. Absolutely delicious. Set the second side down. Make sure you put weight on it again. Now, if you're doing this with cauliflower, or if you're doing this with portobello mushrooms, which are some ingredients I said that you could use if you're a vegetarian or just don't like eating meat, all of the same principles apply. You're just going to put the cauliflower in the pan at as hot as you can get it. You're going to dry it off as best you can. If you want to salt marinate it in the fridge overnight, salt brine it overnight, it'll work just the same as with the steak. And then you're just going to follow the exact same method. Toss it into the pan as hot as you can get it. Now what I'm going to do here is grab a spoon. We're going to do a little bit of basting. And what the basting is going to do is just make sure that you get the butter flavor on both sides, the top and the bottom of the steak. Now I'm just pushing down on the steak to make sure the entire surface is contacting the pan. And now what I'm going to do is actually add a little bit of flavor to my butter. Again, the reason we're adding this now is because if you throw it in too early, you're just going to burn it. I'm going to take 3 heads of garlic, 3 cloves of garlic, and toss them in. And all you got to do is put your knife down, gently smash down, and the skin will peel right off of the clove. Now if you want, you can smash it a little bit more. Just toss that right into the butter. There we go, smash into the butter. So one of the things you're going to notice when you're cooking steak this way is it's not going to hiss and spit and spatter and be very loud the way that you expect it to be. And that's because there's no water. When you're putting water in oil, it immediately vaporizes the oil, and the oil or the water becomes, it immediately vaporizes the water and the water becomes steam. That's where all the hissing and spitting comes from. So when you don't have all of that water on the outside of the steak, you're not going to get the same activity. You are still going to hear the sizzle, you're still going to hear it going, but it's not going to be super duper loud. It's going to be a little bit more muted. There we go. And then after you flip it a couple of times, after you've cooked the side, some of the juices are going to kind of come back out to the surface, and that's why it gets louder the second time you flip it. Now that I've gotten some flavor on that in the butter, I'm going to do some more basting and get some of that garlic flavor onto the steak. And the reason that we didn't cook this at sear the entire time, if you have this thing on sear the entire time, the steak's going to be just a burnt puck. That's not what you want. I'm going to turn it one more time. And for me, this is when I sear the fat. Yeah, May. Ooh, nice, Frank. Is it nice and sunny over there in Germany right now? Yeah, Felicia, reading is definitely fun. I've got a stack of books that I've got to get through. I think I have something like 40 books, and I've read like 10 of them. It's one of the things I'm trying to get through while we're doing this stay-at-home stuff. Shelter at home. Oh, man, I have not seen Jay and Silent Bob. I need to see that. What movies are you going to be watching, May? Hey, Ellie, nice to see you. Ah! Very cool, very cool. So this guy's starting to spit at me. I'll leave it back on the other side just a little bit longer. Now, there's a couple of different ways that you can tell how done your steak is. The best way is to use a thermometer, 100%. Get an instant read thermometer or have like a barbecue thermometer and stick it in the side. And once your steak is at the temperature you like it, pull it off and be done with it. There's a couple of other methods. You can say, hey, the inside of my hand is raw because it's super thin, it's super squishy. And then as you kind of do this with your fingers, this is medium rare, medium, medium well, and well done, because the tendons tighten up as you do this. Whatever you want to do. I like to use a thermometer. I also can eyeball it and kind of figure out where I'm at. So there we go. Both sides of the steak look phenomenal. Good crust on this side. That was the second side. Good crust on this side. This was the first side. Fat's nice and cooked. What I'm going to do is actually find which side I think is not cooked as much as the other, which is going to be that side. I'm going to turn this off. I'm actually going to put this in the oven to finish cooking. This is pretty hot, so I'm actually going to do this. Swoop. Yoop. I'm going to put it up on the top. And our potato looks like it's pretty much done. I'm going to give it another couple minutes, though. It's been in there for about 40 minutes. I want to give it 45. But this takes us to one of the most fun parts, I think, of doing the salad, and that is making our own balsamic vinaigrette dressing. Now this sounds like it's super, super difficult. Balsamic vinaigrette is probably one of the easiest dressings to make. It's super simple. All you need is balsamic vinegar and olive oil. And a little bit of Dijon mustard to kind of hold it together. So I'm actually going to put the salad there for now. I've got a jam jar that I've finished the jam, of course, and rinsed out, washed out, and I'm just going to use that. And what I'm going to do is start with a really good quality olive oil, extra virgin, if you please. And this time you're using extra virgin because number one, you're not cooking it, and number two, you want that flavor. What we're going to do is add about 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. I'm eyeballing it. Go. Now I'm going to go get my balsamic. And what you want is a 3-to-1 ratio of olive oil to balsamic vinegar. So I've got some good balsamic. So if you're just doing tablespoons, you're going to do 3 tablespoons of olive oil to 1 tablespoon of balsamic vinegar. Since I'm eyeballing it, I'm just saying what looks like 2/3, 1/3. That's what I'm doing for that. Oh, come on. This cap sucks. And pardon me, vinegar poupon. But of course, you really don't want a lot of this. You just want like a very, very small dollop. This is probably a teaspoon, maybe 3/4 of a teaspoon. All that does is help the oil and the balsamic vinegar emulsify and stay together. Done with this spoon, we'll put you over there, close you up, put you back in the fridge. Now this is why I use the jam jar. Close it and shake. This jam was the strawberry jam. I've also got blackberry jam. I love strawberries, raspberries, blackberries are amazing. My favorite berries. I've got a marionberry bush outside in my garden, and I love it. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm going to reuse this spoon with the Dijon on it. I'm actually going to just kind of do this to try and get some of the Dijon off. Worked good enough for government work, and I'm just going to taste my dressing. Very good. Again, I'm doing this with myself. Don't lick the spoon and put it back in the dressing if you're cooking for other people. They don't appreciate that much. Season your dressing. And this isn't going to take very much salt, but it's going to take some of the tartness out. A little bit of salt, again, a little bit of pepper. And we're just going to take this and give it a quick shake again. Hey, Ann, how's it going, man? I guess you're not a man if you're Ann. Maybe you are. Perfect. Love the seasoning. And our dressing is done. We can literally just pour this over the salad once we're done with the potato and the steak. Speaking of the steak and the potato's been in there for about 45 minutes. Let's see if it is ready to go. Once again, I know I'm using a paper towel. I'm sorry. The other towels are on their way. We're going to go ahead and grab the potato out. Feels nice and softish, so it should be good. I'm actually going to sit that there and kind of let it cool down a little bit. As far as the steak goes, I'm going to go and get a small plate and put the steak on the plate to rest while I finish the rest of the potato. Plate there. I want this thing here for the steak. The steak really doesn't need that much more time in the oven to finish cooking. And there we go. Steak on the plate. Probably could have gotten a bigger plate. It's all good. You'll notice that none of the garlic is burned yet. And that's what you want. If you cook garlic, it's good to brown it. That pulls the flavor out. As soon as it starts going black and looking burned, you've kind of ruined it. All of the kind of bitter taste comes out of the garlic. Not ideal when you're doing something like this. Last thing I'm going to do with the steak is cover it and let it rest. I'm going to grab a little piece of aluminum foil if you are from the European region. We're just going to very loosely kind of tent this steak here. Something like this. And we're just going to poke a little hole in the top of this so that it can kind of vent. That's really not going to let out a lot of heat. It will let out steam, which prevents the steak from kind of going soggy. And we're just going to set that over there for now to rest. Potato is still pretty darn hot, so I'm going to use my paper towel to do this part. And really all we're going to do is cut it in half. Looks like it's just barely cooked enough. So I'm lucky. Usually potatoes take about an hour at 375 to actually cook through. This one is just about done. And what I'm going to do is actually grab my butter knife again. And what I want to do is just kind of score. Oh, nope, it's not quite cooked all the way. It's cooked enough, I think. We'll see what happens. But I basically want to use the butter knife to kind of score through. I might actually have to use one of the... Let me use my paring knife. I'm going to be very, very careful. Don't try this at home. I'm not going to go all the way through. You're not trying to do like with the avocado where you're going all the way down to the skin. You really just want to leave like a 1/4 inch of skin or a 1/2 inch of skin all the way around the potato. You're just trying to get the potato meat out of the potato. So I'm just going to kind of score it like this. And being very gentle about it, very careful about it. There's a little bit of a brown spot here. I don't really want the brown spot. So I'm going to kind of get rid of you. Everything else is fine. And I'm going to use this fork and just kind of scoop out the insides of the potato. You can also use a spoon. But I'm just going to trust that the fork's going to be good enough. Yeah, it looks like 3/4 of the potato is actually cooked. So it could have gone a little bit longer. Although I don't know how long you guys want to stay on the stream. I mean, I could have a 2.5 hour stream. That would be a lot of fun. For me, I don't know how much fun it would be for y'all. Now you want to be very gentle when you're doing this, because the skin loves to tear, especially when you don't want it to. You want to get as close to the skin as you can without going through it. Generally speaking, I would have let this cool for a good 30 minutes, so I probably would have started this even before the stream, yet I wanted to show you all what goes into it. I guess I could have done like a, hey, put this in the fridge for 45 days, and then, oh, look, we have one ready to go. I didn't think about doing that. There's the skin, and I ripped that one, but that's okay, because you can still salvage it. I've got my potato here. I'm going to mash it down just with a fork. You're going to notice that it's super dry, and that's fine. That's exactly what you want. The reason you're mashing it first is because you're releasing all the steam. Now that you've got all the steam kind of going and the potato is super hot, when you put your butter in, like so, it's going to melt right into the potato. And you need a little bit more butter than you expect, because you want this to be really rich. And I'm not going to do the other half of my potato, so I'm not going to use the rest of that butter. But I am going to mix this butter in. Now, once you get the butter mixed in, and this is just kind of like a very roughly mashed potato, at this point, you can add whatever you want. You can add thyme, you can add rosemary. I like to add a little bit of blue cheese. I'm not going to put in any herbs, not this time, but you could if you wanted to. Get some of this potato mashed, some of the more raw spots. Get these guys mashy mashed. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to actually put this on pause and turn my broiler on. And I'm going to put it on broil high and let that get warmed up, because that's where this is going once we're done mixing this. This is why it's called a twice baked potato, because you're baking it once so that you can get the insides out and kind of get them mashed, and then you bake it again to kind of get a crust on the top of it. Very cool. So now what I'm going to do, set the cheese right there. Got my blue cheese. We're going to put a little bit of blue cheese in here. I like to call it a French pinch when you put in way more than what anybody expects you're going to when you say, I'm going to put a little bit in. We're just going to kind of toss that around. We're not going to smash it and make it melty and stuff like that. We just want to get it incorporated. And if we were doing both halves of the potato, I would just have both halves in this bowl. But since I'm just doing the one half to demonstrate, don't worry, I'll get to the other half later and eat it. But just for tonight, we'll get that done. Blue cheese is in there. Don't forget to season your potato. It's already got some blue cheese in there, so don't put too much salt because the blue cheese already is salty. You can add Parmesan, you can add the cheddar inside as well if you'd like. You can add sour cream at this point, anything you want to get the inside of the potato set up the way you want it. But take care to think about what you're putting in here. The butter that I put in is unsalted so that I can add the salt as I need to. The blue cheese is a little bit salted, so kind of keep a mental note of what you're putting in here so that you can kind of have an idea of how salty you think it's going to be. So that when you add salt yourself, it's just to season it, just to add it. Taste. Perfect. Now what I'm going to do is take my potato shell here. You're going to stuff it with your potato mixture here. And the great thing about this and mashing the potato is the mashed potato is generally has a little bit more volume, especially when you've added stuff to it. So it always sticks up a little bit outside of the potato skin. I think I can actually set you down. And you get a nice little mound of potato. Like so. We're done with that. Now, I am going to shred some cheese. This is just for accent, so you don't need too much. Get our cheese there. Just kind of put it over the top like this. And we're going to take this potato, put it right back under the broiler for maybe 5 minutes. Come on, cheese, work with me on the potato. Push it down, but don't push it down too much if you want it to kind of stick. Now, I'm going to put this in the oven. I'm going to run out and actually cut some fresh chives and come right back in because I'm going to finish it with chives. You don't want to put anything that you're finishing before you put it in the oven because it will just blacken and look terrible and taste terrible. But I do want to get a little bit of a nice onion overtone on this, so I'm going to go grab some chives for the finishing. Now what I'm actually going to do, I know I had steak on this earlier, but I'm going to put my potato on this. I'm going to put it on one of the sides where the steak was not. I'm actually going to turn it so that I can lean the one side up against it to make it perk up a little bit, stand up a little bit more vertical rather than kind of laying down the way it was. And by putting this back in the oven, it's going to cook off any bacteria that were left on here anyway, so all in all, we're fine. This is going to go back under the broiler. I'm going to position the potato right under one of the heating elements. I'll actually put it down there since I'm walking outside, and I will be right back. Give me 30 seconds. How was I on time? Was that about 30 seconds? All of my devices say, oh my God, you opened the door. Cool. The chives are there. We're done with these guys for now. All of the extra cheese you can eat because it is perfectly good cheese. Or if you happen to, accidentally drop it on the floor, your dog might get it. And he likes cheese too. I have hardwood floors, so they will be clean when the dog is done. Very cool. Done with the knife. Shut that there. I'm going to check on my potato real quick. Looking good. Cool. I'm gonna take these chives and just kind of give them a cut through real quick. Very nice, very nice. Take the big pieces out. Awesome. So that's done. Let's get our salad ready. We're just going to take our dressing and pour it into the salad. Thanks, Steve. We're done with this. We can wash that later. And this is the best part of doing a salad. We're going to use our hands. You can use salad tongs, but it's less efficient. All we're going to do is start folding the salad up and over itself. So scoop down to the bottom, up and over, and that's all you got to do. The entire salad will be coated. You can make sure that if there's any veggies that are sticking together, you can break them apart. Just like so. And this way you make sure that you're not crushing anything. You're not breaking any of the lettuce leaves. You're not crushing any of the cucumber, bruising anything that's in there, tomatoes especially. And just make sure everything is coated. Now, of course, I'm not going to touch my keyboard immediately after doing this. I'm probably going to go wash my hand. But now we've got a beautifully dressed salad. Carrot and cucumber down. And the great thing that anything that pops out of the dish is a sacrificial piece of yummy. I'm gonna wash my hand, I'll be right back. All right, let's check on our potato. The oven is steaming or kind of smoking because there's a bunch of stuff in there, but the potato is fine. Oil on the oven grates will make it do that. So you can see the cheddar cheese is melted. It's not quite brown enough for me, but now that I'm inside, I'm going to put this right underneath the heating element so that I can get a nice golden crust on it. Leave it in there for maybe another 2 minutes. That's going to go on that. Salad's done, but let's get our plate for plating. Use one of these. Always make sure your plate is clean, which it is. Knives out of the way. Can you all see that? Not really. So what I'll do is I'll plate, and after I plate, we will take a look at it. I'm just going to go ahead and use the tongs that I used for the steak. They are sanitized because they were in a hot pan. I'm just going to pick out pieces of salad as I need. Somebody honked their horn, so my dog is now upset. There's our salad on the plate. Oh, and now my smoke alarm's going off. That's always fun. 2 seconds. Beep, beep. All it takes is closing the door. And I'm back. Let's check on our potato. That looks like what I want. I could probably go a little longer. Actually gonna do this. There we go. Salad's done. Let's get our steak over here. Steak is nice and warm. The plate is. Steak is rested. Let's go ahead and move the chives over to the side. And let's see how we did on our steak. Cut off this end piece here. That might go to doggo later. And then you can just serve the steak like this. I could just put this on the plate. I think that's a bit boring. I like to kind of slice my steak a little bit. Now I'm going to go diagonal like this. And that looks like a pretty good medium steak. Not bad. And I think the thicker we get, the more medium rare it's going to get. Which is perfect. Like that, doggo can play around with that too. Now on the plate, see you there, piece like that, go like that. This is where you can really kind of have fun playing around with how you want to put your steak down on the plate. Something like that looks good to me. And my potato's probably burned now. Nope, perfect. Come here. So that's what I'm looking for on my potato. Nice little scorching, but nothing overcooked, nothing burned. This is going to be super, super hot, so don't touch it without protection. That's what she said. And we're going to come over here and grab the potato. Stick it right there on the plate. Grab some of this extra cheese. Come here, cheese. Come here, cheese. There you go. Cheesy, cheesy goodness. Awesome. And we're going to take the chives, sprinkle them right over the top. And we're good. Now you can take the time to clean off your station, do all of that stuff. And I am going to show you the steak here in just a second. But here we go. Steak, twice baked potato, and a garden salad. Bon appetit. Let's see what this tastes like. Don't want to put this in the goo, so I'm going to lift up my cutting board and swap it out. You can use a damp paper towel or a cabinet liner, one of the sticky ones, if you don't want your cutting board sliding around and moving when you're cutting on it. Best tip I've ever learned. And grab a fork, grab a knife, and let's dig in. One of the cool things you can do at this point is you can just garnish everything. Like I have some Parmesan cheese over here. I might want to put some over my salad. Kind of an addition. I've already got 2 types of cheese in the potato, so that might be a little bit of overkill. I think it is. I think I'm going to not do that today. But what I am going to do is put a little bit of pepper over my salad. I did put some in the dressing, but this again is going to give it a little bit more pepper bite, a little bit more of a peppery flavor. So let's do this piece. Actually cut it on the cutting board because I do need a picture for the gram. But I will tell you how the steak tastes. Steak is perfect. Very, very tasty. Yum, yum. Got some salad. It has some chives that came off of the potato. Also delicious. Sorry y'all can't be here to try this, but it is really good. And for the twice baked potato, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but the skin is nice and crispy. A little bit of everything, some blue cheese in there, some cheddar on the top, crispy skin. This is going to be liquid magma hot, so it's probably going to burn the hell out of my mouth. Nope, that's good. Ooh, there's the hot. Mm-hmm. Man, once you bite into that cheese, that is hot. Very tasty, though. Anyway, that brings us to the end of another Cook Along Live. Thank you so much for joining me on another Friday afternoon. Took about an hour and 11 minutes. Thank you so much for watching. Awesome, Cindy. Awesome, Cindy. I'm very glad. Thank you, Ellie. Awesome, Hui. Yeah, Joey, I love this apron. I think this is what I'm going to be wearing for all of my Cook Along Lives. A lot of fun. Awesome, Debbie. Thank you. I will enjoy. Anne, Frank, thank you. Mom, I don't have wine. I've just got the beer. Yeah, I need to get an overhead light and an overhead camera. So that is something that's on my, I have a camera that I can use, but I need to be able to hook it up to my computer and be able to switch between looking straight down and, the head-on video. Right now, my cell phone is actually my video camera. So I can't check text messages. I can't see any of that stuff. I can hear what my phone is doing, but I can't actually check it because I'm using the camera on that. Because the actual camera that I use, I can't just plug it into my computer and use it as a camera. I would have to pre-record these and then put them out. Less fun that way. I like interacting with y'all. I think it's a lot of fun. Hey, Jesse, how's it going, man? Thank you, Jaron. Yeah. Awesome, Shannon. I have several of these things already put together. They're saved on YouTube. You can go onto my channel, youtube.com/Syrix, P-S-Y-R-I-X-X. And, if you're watching this live stream, you know where that is. There's a couple in a live stream cook along playlist. You can go and see some of the previous ones I did. We did homemade pasta, fresh made pasta, and taco night. So those were also fun. And we'll be doing some more next week. I'm thinking about doing scrambled eggs for dinner next week. So if you guys want to see how to do some nice creamy eggs on toast, it's a pretty simple, pretty quick recipe to put together. Super tasty. You can do it for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. But let me know if there's anything that you want specific. Leave a comment after the video is posted and just say, hey, I would like you to do this, and then I can go through and actually take a look. I have a good friend of mine, his name is Cameron. He's been giving me a couple of really good ideas, like maybe doing scallops, doing some salmon, doing poached eggs, things like that. So I have a lot of stuff kind of on the horizon thinking about it. And maybe once this shelter at home thing is kind of lifted, we might end up having guests on the show as well. And I might try and figure out if I can do like a Zoom call or something and get somebody like picture in picture talking about how maybe a wine pairing would go with the food that we're cooking. So we got a lot of stuff that I'm kind of thinking about, a little bit off in the future. But for a third night of doing Cook Along Live, I guess it's a fourth night if you count the hummus video. Can't complain. I think this is pretty good. And I'm probably going to reshoot the hummus video because the hummus video didn't make it to YouTube. It was a Facebook Live only thing before I even went and looked to see how I could do multi-streaming, which I knew how to do multi-streaming, but I didn't even consider it until after I posted that video. So I might put together the hummus video again, higher resolution, post it to YouTube as well, and then it'll be memorialized forever. So thanks again, guys. It was great chatting with you while I put together all this awesome food. I am going to finish the rest of that potato. I'm probably going to store the salad. I dressed it already, but it's okay. Since we didn't really bruise any of the veggies or the leaves, they should be good for at least one night and edible tomorrow. Other than that, I think we're good. Have a great weekend, everybody. I will see you next Friday. I am planning on doing more live streams, not necessarily cooking, but just general stuff, video games, market updates on Mondays and things like that. So keep tuned. 6 o'clock every night, at least Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Going to try and do every night during the week, and we'll see what happens. So have a great evening, everybody. Great weekend. All the best. Hopefully we can get through this quarantine hysteria soon and get back to actually having fun in person, because I'd love to have some of you all over here. Anyway,